Okay, welcome everybody. I'm sorry that we're starting a little late. We're going to start our Board of Selectmen's meeting, our open session part of our meeting tonight for October 1st at 7:10. I have a few announcements. This meeting is being broadcast on local cable TV and recorded for rebroadcast on local cable channels and on the internet. The planning board hearing on the proposed zoning amendments change of date to October 16th, 2018 at 7:45. It's the solar bylaw, which they're going to make some amendments to, and at 8:15, the open space preservation development bylaw. Park and Rec Commission public forum on the proposed town meeting article dealing with the Dunn property is October 9th, 2018 at 7:30. Does anybody know where that is? In this building? In this room. Thank you. Community Preservation Committee public hearing is October 18th, 2018 at 7:30. Does anybody know where that is?
This room.
In this room. Our special town meeting is October 22nd, 2018 at 7 o'clock, and I know where that is. That's at the Annex, which is right over there. Please come. We need a quorum. Early voting is October 22nd to November 2nd in the front foyer at the 1910 building for the state election. November 6, 2018 is Election Day, held at the Town Annex from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Absentee ballots are in and available at the town clerk's office. Joe, do you have anything else?
Yes, I do. Two things. One, the West Newbury Water Department will begin its fall hydrant flushing. This will begin on Saturday night, October 6th, and run through October 19th. Complete details will be available on the website. And secondly, the West Newbury Police Department will participate in the Fall National Drug Take-Back Day on Saturday, October 27th, and that will be at 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the West Newbury Police Station, 401 Main Street.
And what drugs are we talking about? Anything? Crack?
Anything you want to give.
Okay,
Back.
there you go. One thing I'd like to make a comment about, how are we doing how are we informing our residents on the flushing, other than the hydrant flushing, other than being on social media? Because I'm going to get texts, which I've gotten before.
We do every year.
Which I have recently, when they've had problems that is the water safe to bathe my children, and I'm calling people. I'm calling the Board of Health at night. I'm calling Angus at night. So can we do this as much as we possibly can?
Yeah, we'll put it on the website. We'll do a mailing. We need to, and I'm not talking about the water department, but you bring up a good point. We need to get other departments that are outside of like this domain to. Mary's got an invaluable email list, and if people want to know anything about the town, they look at the website. So that's where people go. So we have to get all departments to give her the information.
Well,
and that's a perfect example.
Well, the water was a good example because we had brown water, or it was some type of water, and
You're talking about last 2 weeks? That was because Newburyport started their flushing.
I understand.
Okay.
But I got a couple of texts, and then I got about, is the water safe to bathe my children? A couple of people called me because it was after hours it was happening. So I said, well, look on the town's website, because I don't know anything. And then I went on the town's website. There was nothing there. Then I called the water department to leave them a message, and they had a recording saying, hey, we have a problem with Newburyport. You might be experiencing some brown water. If it continues tomorrow, please give the water department a call. But nobody knows enough.
Right.
Nobody would think to call the water department after hours to listen to that message.
So that's why we have to get everybody to.
I think Angus is listening, and he's working on it. But that's part of the list that seems to keep on growing, that we keep on giving him.
We've got to break down these barriers.
Yep.
So
him and I have had that conversation.
One other thing, I might be a little ahead of myself here. Halloween will be on October 31st this year, and the hours are 5:30 to 7:30, but we'll get official announcement.
Are you going to dress up again and give out candy, or are you not going to give out candy again?
Nobody, we have candy, but nobody in
Makes it up that hill?
In all of the years I've lived here, we've not had one visitor.
I wouldn't.
Wow. And that candy is getting really stale.
No, my wife eats it.
I wouldn't take it personal, Joe. I think it's that big hill.
Yeah.
Do you
We
have
have a
any
very
announcements?
long driveway.
Angus, would you have any announcements?
No.
Okay.
After that.
So let's proceed then. Regular business, special events and licenses, Apple Harvest Run, one-day liquor license. Somebody here representing Apple Harvest Road Race, could you please come up?
Hi,
Michelle,
Michelle.
how are you
How are you?
tonight? I'm doing terrific.
Thanks
So
for
you
coming.
you did warn us that you might be coming back. So you want to, does anybody have any questions? You want to talk about it, anything like that? Seems to be all in line, no?
I don't have any questions.
Angus?
All good.
Okay, Joe, can somebody make a
I
motion?
move to approve the one-day liquor license in the name of Michelle Card for the Apple Harvest Road Race for October 13th from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Second.
And part of that, it's been seconded for discussion, and then we're going to waive the fee because it's a nonprofit?
Yep.
Okay? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you for coming in.
Yep. Good luck with the race.
Don't anybody else think it's going to go that easy for you guys. Nourishing the North Shore's annual harvest party, one-day liquor license. Okay?
Just curious, what is nourishing the North Shore?
That means different things to everybody. So things that take to nourish me are probably different than for you. Okay, why don't you answer that question and then tell us a little bit about what's going on.
So Nourishing the North Shore is a food justice organization. We're part of the YWCA Greater Newburyport, and we work with local food pantries to bring fresh produce to the pantries. So a lot of pantries have like shelf-stable goods.
Mhm.
So we work with local farmers to basically collect their excess produce and bring that to the food pantry. So we run a 20-week farmers market at the pantries. We also have cooking classes for that are like sliding scale. And
Just pull it.
Yeah, pull it towards you, sorry.
and we do education for students and classes.
Could you please state your names for us? It was neglected to say that when you started, please.
My name is Kaylee Burke. I'm Emily Herrick.
Okay. Do you give fresh produce to West Newbury's
We do.
food
We
pantry?
did this morning.
Terrific. Any questions on this, gentlemen? Any, Mary, Angus?
Everything's in order. I move to approve the Nourishing the North Shore's annual harvest party one-day liquor license for October 20th from 1 to 3 p.m., 914 Main Street, West Newbury.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. In any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming in. Pawtucket Athletic Association 5K Road Race Special Event Application. Good evening.
My name is Barbara Sullivan, and I'm here on behalf of the Pawtucket Athletic Association. We applied for an application to do our 9th annual Pawtucket Pride 5K road race on Sunday, November 18th. Last year, we did it on November 26th. We had a great success, 111 runners last year, so we're looking to do the same event starting at 9:30 with a fun run for kids, and that's free, and then at 10 o'clock, a 5K through the streets of West Newbury, leaving from the high school.
Okay, anybody have any questions? This is obviously your 9th year, right? 9th year. Did we have any problems in the past or any things that we can make this better? I don't think, right?
No, I mean, I've run about 6 of them, so.
Yeah, it's a good race.
Okay.
Passed on.
Angus,
And it's
Mary?
better now that the sidewalk is repaired.
It's been fixed.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Joe, or you guys want to?
I move to approve the Pawtucket Athletic Association request for a 5K road race on Sunday, November 18th.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. And any other questions or concerns? They got it in on time?
No.
that's a concern. So what,
Well, September 14th. We actually, no, I take that back, because we changed it to 60 days.
So they
I
did.
apologize, I'm wrong.
Okay.
That it was 60 days, sorry.
perfect,
It used
thank
to be
you.
90, we changed it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much for coming in. Greenside Special Events application? How are you, sir?
Aye.
All right.
I do remember you, Eli, right?
Eli, yes.
Yes, you've been here before.
Okay. You have any questions of this gentleman? Mary, we have any questions?
Just a comment. So, since we just brought it up for PAA, this is stamped September 26 for an event on 10/21, which is in 20 days from now.
So I absolutely apologize about that. The reason for the tardiness for this year is we were actually attempting to make some major changes with the overall course, which would have changed things in West Newbury or perhaps even moved it out depending on, and that was more.
Excuse me for 1 second.
Sure.
Jen, can you ask them to keep it down? Please, because I'm having a hard time hearing this gentleman. Thank you, Jen. Sorry about that, Eli.
Yeah, no problem. So when I put in my application months ago through Newburyport, Ward 3 counselor basically had a few issues, and we talked about perhaps moving the event for parking issues. And anyway, everything would have changed courses, and we actually went through a process looking at different courses. But anyway, long story short,
They
at
changed
the end of the
that.
day, there's nothing being changed. I'm working on like sort of shuttling parking situations in the Newburyport area. So anyway, nothing's changing on here in West Newbury, but again, it delayed sort of the application process because I wouldn't have had anything to really apply for in West Newbury until I knew exactly what the plan was for the course here.
Just to give you an update, a heads up, I mean, even if you started that a month ago, it still wouldn't have met our criteria. And there is going to be discussion tonight that we put
Administrative fee.
extra administrative fees at anything that don't meet our timelines in the future. And I'm almost positive it's going to pass because we're having a lot of people not fit our criteria and our timelines, and it's making for a lot of us running around and so forth and so on. So my suggestion, we're going to have strict denials if it
Yep.
doesn't meet our thing. So just in the future.
Next year.
Yeah, for next year. I don't think this is going to matter tonight, I don't think, but just to give you a heads up that it's going to be a policy that we're not going to have any control over. Now, this is a for-profit event.
Yes.
In the past, even before us in the past, we've asked nonprofits to give some type of donation to an organization in town. For-profit.
Sure. So I have the charities that I've been giving to through the Newburyport, but also every year you actually do pick a charity, and I think it's like a $300 donation that we make. In the past, I think it's been history, the Kentucky High School. So basically, I think
Yep.
you pretty much pick
Why-
one, and I'm happy to do it.
Why don't, if he wants to make a donation, I mean, let him make the decision of where they're gonna donate their money.
I think you might need some direction.
Yeah, no, I don't mind it. West Newbury, you guys allow me to utilize your roads. If you guys have a local one that you prefer, I have no problem with that.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah, make a suggestion, but I wouldn't like make it a requirement.
I would actually,
I'm just gonna write it down.
I would make a suggestion that we do it to the Page School PTO to offset the cost of their road race, because all the profits and all the, they just came in here with a big expense of a liquor license, then that would offset that. And because they're trying to raise money for the kids, and it's kind of,
You said the PTO,
it's a Page School,
Page School PTO.
Yeah, the Page Elementary School, PTO. And that would actually help them with their road race. Yeah. Kind of links it in together, right? I think we've run the gamut. We did the Pawtucket Education, we did maybe the Education Foundation, we did the Historical Commission, we've done the Pawtucket Athletic Association.
I know we did that, yeah.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
that okay?
Sounds great to
That
me.
okay?
I'll get that
Well, like I said, let him,
No, and I'm happy. That's fine.
And it is what it is, right?
Sure.
I mean, it's
So
going
how-
to the kids.
Just one question. How's are the numbers, is your race growing or?
So
Are
we
you
experienced our
gonna have a
biggest growth
top
probably
out
like
number
3 or
or
4
what?
years ago. The race really exploded like 3 or 4 years ago, where I was at like over 4,000. It's since come down and it's been pretty stable I'd say about 3 years in a row. So we're on track to be probably about 2,500 registrations, but which equals just around 2,000 total finishers.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so it was one of you two gentlemen. Hold on for 1 second, please. Mike has a question? You need to use a microphone, sir.
It's just, is a race that's going up Middle Street though? Can they?
Oh, okay, so
Oh,
I can
yeah,
address
the
that.
bridge.
actually.
Oh, yeah.
I can address that. So that was so great question, and that was actually one of the things I was also talking about altering the changes. So after speaking, and I have sign-offs on both Newburyport Police Department and the Newburyport DPW, after having a conversation with Tony, who heads the Newburyport DPW, basically it's pedestrian safe. And so what's the way that's going to work is instead of having and it is open enough for the runners, so we'll actually probably have 2 separate lead vehicles, one that's going to basically stop before the bridge.
And then one pick up afterwards.
We'll be coning off, so in some form we will be funneling the runners just across that portion, and then we'll have another lead vehicle to basically take on from that point.
Got it.
And
Okay, anything else?
I move to approve the Green Stride Half Marathon for October 21st,
Second.
with the conditions outlined by the Chief of Police.
Been moved, it's been seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Discussion, just I think I read it, but now you are having porta potties in West Newbury, a couple of spots, or no?
yes, on the corner of Browns Avenue and Garden, which is where the relay transition is, and then after one of the water stops off of.
When will they be delivered and when will they be picked up?
So I keep a really tight window on that. So if the race is Sunday morning, usually sometime Saturday afternoon, and picked up either Sunday afternoon or first thing Monday morning.
Okay,
Is that all right?
yep.
And we haven't had any problems with that in the past, right? That's the same,
Same,
you've run
same
it?
thing, yeah. There were a few years ago when it was bigger, I had more, but it's not as much of a need, so it's just 2 porta potties.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you, gentlemen.
If, to get the information that you might need for the PTO, you could actually, contact Mary in the Selectman's office, and then she can give you Michelle Card's thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Myopia Hunt Special Events Application. Anybody here?
No. Can I just ask Mary a question? So what they're applying for is October 6, 23 and November 6, all 3? Is that what these applications are?
Correct.
We do have 3 applications. October 6th and October 23rd are complete. We're still waiting on a map for the November 6th event.
So the November 6 is or is not before
Is
us?
not, well, we don't have the map. She's working on that and would have it for us possibly for the next meeting, or if you
Okay.
want to approve it with the stipulation of submitting the map.
Well, submitting the map and having it approved by the
That
police
Chief
chief,
looks at it,
yeah, you just can't submit it. He has to make sure that it works, right?
It's the same map they've used.
I know, but I
so you
just-
know. Okay.
When I don't see a map, everybody always says it's gonna be the same map until it's not the same map. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, you feel comfortable with that, Joe?
Yes.
Okay, you wanna make the motion, please?
Okay, I move to approve the special event request for the, let's see who it's from, the Myopia Hunt Club for events on October 6, October 23, and October 6th, with the requirement outlined by the Chief of Police about crossing stewards. It's clearly outlined in the special event requests. So that must be adhered to. It's not somebody sitting in a car going like this. It's somebody out of the vehicle directing
Whatever the chief says.
as he outlines.
as directed by the chief.
Yes,
Okay,
without variation.
Okay.
And that they provide a completed application with a map for the November 6th event.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Pawtucket Regional School District request for the town sponsoring of a FY19 IT grant.
Morning, gentlemen. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Good evening, gentlemen. Good.
Hello, if you could, I know who you are, but could you state your names, please, for
Anyone watching?
the record and anyone's watching?
Justin Bartholomew, Superintendent.
Brent Connolly.
Assistant Superintendent.
Good evening, gentlemen. Do you want to, Angus, do you want to kind of lead this discussion, if you would, please?
Sure. So, first of all, thank you both for being here. A couple of weeks ago, I was contacted. Pentucket had been working for several weeks on the understanding that they had the ability to apply for an IT grant under the Community Compact. The letter which was sent to them is substantially identical to the letter that was sent to cities and towns, but in order to apply for an IT grant, it requires a municipal sponsor, and that did not become known until 2 days or 3 days before the grant was due. And the letter was, the way it was written, was a little bit less than clear. And in fact, the state in their correspondence, because Pentucket had been trying to get to this answer for weeks and didn't get the answer until the last minute, the state essentially apologized for the letter being a little bit less than clear. So at the time, I explained to the superintendent that the Board of Selectmen policy requires board approval prior to submittal of a grant. But under the circumstances, I was willing to put my name to it with the understanding that if the board didn't support that, we could withdraw the grant. I'd spoken to the state, and they confirmed that if that plays out, the grant could either be withdrawn or it could be transferred to a different municipal sponsor. That could be any of the 3 towns, in theory, but not Groveland, because they got an IT grant last year. So that really is the nub of the issue. The way the grant program is set up is if a municipality gets a grant in a fiscal year, they're ineligible to apply the following year. So for that reason, Groveland, which got a grant in FY18, is ineligible to be the lead sponsor. What that means is if we are the lead sponsor and if the grant is successful, we would be ineligible to apply in FY20. So that's really what's before you. What's the grant for generally?
Sure. The grant, the Community Compact grant, was meant for us to, as a school district, implement a new student information system. We currently operate with about 5 or 6 different platforms that manages our student data management, grades, report cards, communication systems out to parents and students in the community. And it's also the system that communicates with the state on all of the information the state collects on our students. We're operating with one system that is rather antiquated, and we need to consolidate them and be more efficient.
None of those systems speak with each other.
Right. Yeah, no, it makes sense. Anything to add to what Angus said?
No, I think one of the pieces that the state has also asked to put in funds is approved here, we'll get better support from both Groveland and Merrimack. Since it was regional.
Mr. Chairman?
What's the, I know there's no answer, but what would be the possibility of success? Is it a rare event or high degree of probability?
So I actually heard from the state, who contacted me this week, asking a clarifying question. Number one, so the original amount of the grant request was for slightly over $71,000. There was $13,000 built into that request that they would not be eligible to cover. But in that conversation, and actually the person who works for the state now, who runs this grant system, is a former colleague of mine. So we had a nice conversation, and he said, other than that, they were really excited to see that a school district was able to partner and apply, because they don't get that often, and they're trying to expand that platform. So
they're going to get
very positive feedback.
So they're going to get it.
So you got some inside information.
Positive feedback.
How, I know this was for one particular thing that you had priced out at $71,000. How much could these grants go up to?
The grant it's a competitive grant. They will supply grant money up to $200,000 in review of all prior grant recipients over the last 2 years. The sweet spot seemed to be in that $50,000 to $80,000, $90,000 range. It wasn't much over that. And it ranged. There was a previous school district, our regional school district, partnered with the town of Orange last year to improve their infrastructure. And this is the for us, it's a one-time expenditure to make this change, and then the annual expense of running the systems is actually less than what we currently pay to 5 or 6 different vendors.
Well, that's
From a
good.
self standpoint, it'll cost the school district a lot less moving forward.
Right.
Is it a matching grant, or is it just self-fulfilling, like?
It's a one-time
Grant.
expense to make the change in the rule.
I see. And so then, okay, the annual fee is gonna be only one company versus 5, yes. Okay.
Okay, I think this is a great thing to do, but I have to ask the question, because it's one that we need to ask, is that now this prevents us, as a town, to then apply for a grant until 2021.
Fiscal 21, yes.
Yeah, fiscal, 21.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a comment regarding that.
Sure.
So, I'd say that network security and potential vulnerability to phishing or ransomware are big issues, and I would say the perpetrators have gotten highly sophisticated recently. We've had numerous break-ins where I work, where I get paid to work, actually. But in view of the fact that, we cannot apply this year, and that you need a municipal sponsor. So, it's really only precluding us from 1 year, not 2 years. So
We wouldn't have done it this year anyway.
yeah, so I would
That's
just.
what I was figuring,
I think we should go ahead and approve this request, but I'd say we should make this a priority for fiscal 21 so that I think, I'm just going to leave it at that.
Okay,
I echo Joe's comments.
did you have any comment, Angus?
Only in the event that Merrimack was willing to sponsor, that would be favorable. I think if they weren't, we could,
Right.
but I don't know if you've had that conversation. I traded calls with Carol.
Right, I know she was gone. She
Yep.
was aware when we tried to set up. the
Yep.
program, not eligible, who came here first.
Yep.
Obviously, because Angus is one person.
Mhm.
Of course, with Angus being the sponsor.
Yeah, he filled this in.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, this did not pass you.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I think we should approve it.
yeah, I do too. So since we need to wait for 2 years for ourselves, maybe we could talk with Groveland. I don't know exactly what they got from their grant, but if there's anything security related, is there something we could learn from that is there something that we could do at little or no cost? I don't know if there is or if there isn't, but since they went through the process, if they would share that with us. Otherwise, I'm good. So I would move to approve the grant application for the Pentucket Regional School District via the CCC.
Second.
It's been second in discussion. And you have the $13,000 in your budget to be able to fulfill the requirements of the 71, I would hope? All right, I would have to ask that because I didn't want you to apply for the grant and then not be able to do it all.
8,000 more?
Yeah. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Thanks, you gentlemen, for coming in.
Thank you. Speaking of the CCC,
Update from Community Center Committee, please.
the other CCC,
Moving us right along tonight.
breakneck
Good evening,
speed.
gentlemen. Hi, Meredith.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you. Thanks for the invite. Do you want a rapid fire questions, or would you like me to?
You need, what I prefer is that you give your name for everybody at home and the record, and give us kind of an update of where you've been, where you are, where you plan on going, and then if we have any questions, I think we do, we'll be able to then address those to you.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
My name is Vanessa Graham. I chair the Community Center Committee. Some key points that I wanted to share with you guys tonight. You're aware that we put in an article for an architect, or for the portion of the architect. We have some carryover funds that will make up the difference. We have sort of a preliminary design that we've thought about, and we haven't been able to cost it out. It's just been drawn up by a carpenter. I just wanted to sort of have an image or something, but we want to have an architect do actual drawings of that design, cost it out, and then see if he or she has any of their own design ideas to either complement or provide a second option to people in the town, so they kind of have two things to choose from. And At that point, we would come back, so the idea is that if the article was approved, we would, hire someone, go through the regular process, hire someone, come back for spring town meeting, and at that time, sort of have completed our current charge, which was to report back on our determining of the feasibility of building or repurposing something for an intergenerational community center. That's kind of a timeline that would complete our current charge, and, yep.
So your request for funding would be at the spring meeting?
No, it's for fall town meeting.
No, if you do the design work, you'd come back in the spring for an actual request of what the work is? Or is it a future meeting after that? I guess that was my question.
Well, when we come back and report in the spring on whether we, what we've determined is feasible for this, at that time we'll have completed our current charge. So I don't want to go.
And then we would set them on another charge, or
Whatever. Okay.
we would take the report and
Exactly.
take it under advisement, ask them maybe to
But it could meet
set
that
them.
timeline, or is that too fast?
It's not that it's too fast, but if you were to revise our charge before Springtown meeting, that would be different. If our current charge went through Springtown meeting, then we would just provide the report. Does that make sense?
Yes.
We just don't want to exceed
I
the
understand.
charge that you've given
No,
us.
I appreciate that.
Okay. So that's one piece. The other one is that we, you just answered a couple of my points actually. We are looking for identifying potential sources of outside funding. And I think ultimately what's going to probably end up happening, but we're open to any feedback, is we would approach the town for construction costs and then look at grants and gifts for so-called amenities inside to sort of spruce it up and that kind of thing. So not really going outside of the town for major construction costs, but we're still on that path to looking for outside funding and that kind of thing. So we are looking at a couple of foundations. I think we're gonna have more luck with local banks and that kind of thing. But we are pursuing both right now. One of the issues that we've had with when we started looking at doing applications is that our mission statement, our charge is a little bit hard on to put on those applications because it doesn't really make sense to determine the feasibility of creating an intergenerational community center and coming before the town with a report. That's our mission right now. So
Okay.
if we get a revised mission or that kind of thing, or rather charge, we'll be able to start those applications. But that's sort of the snag that we're in right now.
Okay. Well, we'll see what how town meeting votes and what the architect designs, and then we'll talk.
Absolutely, but that's just the rationale for waiting to apply at this time. But we are identifying funding sources, potential funding sources.
So it's basically an engineering more than an architectural to see if it's feasible for the annex to meet what you guys want to do to it and the cost relative there right?
Yeah, I mean, the architect will probably have to work with an engineer for it. To be honest, I don't know exactly. That's my real answer. We have the funds and we'll.
Well, the money that, the article is about using that money and other money that you have to come up with an architectural plan to fit the needs that you have to try to do something in the annex.
Yes.
And then after you get that back, that report will have exactly what those changes will be and the cost that it will take to be able to do the changes.
Right.
And then they'll give that back, and then at that point, you're gonna come back to us and say, hey, whatever it is, that we set you out on a charge that a lone building really isn't gonna be cost effective and the needs and stuff, but we feel maybe revamping the annex for the needs of the town is the way to go, and this is how much it's going to cost. And then you give that report to us, and then we decide what we wanna do with it.
Exactly.
Okay? Do you have any more, anything else, or any other questions? Because thank you for your, I don't know about report, but the thing that you gave in to us exactly how you did it.
Oh, yeah.
The September.
Assessment in the packet and then report, I believe.
So I'm just curious, are you gonna, I would think it would be worthwhile to get an architect that has designed similar types of things, or even done something like this. If you, I don't know how you're gonna try and find a person like that, but ask other towns that have designed these or whatever, that would seems like this is sort of a specialized thing, and I think we want somebody with some expertise in that.
Absolutely. One firm that we're looking at did the public safety building in this town. We are looking at like sort of municipal architects that design municipalities and that kind of thing, municipal buildings. And that's one group that we'll approach. I think that's an excellent point. We don't want someone to come in that's, used to designing houses on High Street or whatever. We want someone that has done this, that knows what we're looking for, that understands that cost is a big issue, and that kind of thing.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? Angus, do you have any questions?
I would just note that one of the conversations that you and I had leading up to this is that the end vision of the space would be something that would be adaptable to different types of uses, whether with partitions or for smaller or larger. Is that part
Yes,
of the parameter?
I think I've said that so many times that maybe I didn't say it directly to you guys. So we have a number of sort of items that the annex needs to meet. We are going to use partitions probably a lot because ultimately we need to move all the walls back so we can have town meeting. So we are looking to create a few new meeting spaces, looking to put in an actual kitchen and create a flow so that when you move back the walls, there's a potential to generate revenue for the town so that we can rent it out to people that actually want to plunk down some money and have a great hall and kitchen to use.
Okay.
Which is a demand that I've just become aware of kind of socially here, that folks are looking for that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well,
go ahead.
No, after you.
Thank you for the septic analysis comments. I realize they're basically comments from Paul, but that was a concern personally I had. I wanted to make sure we weren't creating any issues, and where he doesn't specifically guarantee anything, he does.
But it's helpful.
He does it, yes.
Yeah.
So,
I agree, that was a good call to have
yeah,
that down.
the other thing that I thought was helpful too is this Donahue Institute.
Yes.
It has projections, and I'll give you a copy of what I have, because these projections for like current years, I think they're understating our population, because we're, what, about 4,400 and something?
We're just a little under 44. Yeah, 43
Yeah,
something.
something like that. And then the Census Bureau actually has, and seniors are growing, as you indicate here, but the census is actually indicating that every single age segment, and this is West Newbury specific, the census, where I don't know if this is not West Newbury specific, right?
That one is, that's the Donahue Institute is West Newbury specific also. I think one overshot and one kind of undershot. The reality is probably somewhere in between, but they are both projections. That's absolutely true.
Okay. I don't know if you know what this is?
If
But remember, the
that's
census was done too, they do it every 10 years. So that, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, so that's 8 years old.
Right, so like they'll do the census in 2010 and then they'll project out and then they'll like correct it the next time they do the census. So everything in between, the in-between years are projections.
Okay, any other questions?
Nope.
One thing, actually, on that topic, I would just point out that the Donahue Institute has, when you read their methodology on small geographies like West Newbury, they are making some assumptions based on regional issues, which they're kind of extrapolating, and they do include a note on their website that if you contact them as a public service, that they are available to do a targeted look. Where I know this initiative is looking at closely at projections, as is the Park and Rec, and for any number of reasons, it's useful to us. So I did put a call in there. We traded calls, and it sounds like that would be a real option if we want to initiate that to get something that's more targeted toward.
West Newbury centric.
Yeah.
But do we need it though? Because I mean, I don't know. Do we need that in order to make a decision about the communities? I mean, about that.
I don't think Angus is saying that. I think it's just saying it's nice to have because there's always a bunch of numbers floating around and we're trying to plan for the future.
Somebody asked a question. That we
Yeah,
can
so we're
address.
trying to plan for the future and why not have some good numbers?
Well, I'd like to understand what's involved and what level of effort, whether they do it or whether it implicates a lot of our time. So at this point, that's all I'm
Just a
doing.
question. Okay, fine.
But
Thank you. Mike?
Just one point, I mean, on projections, what I see, because I see people coming and going, is that we've had.
Literally.
Literally. Is what I see is that the population of West Newbury has grown older over the last 10 years.
Absolutely.
And certainly, you know, we have a majority of people over the age of 50 in town. But that seems to be changing on an exponentially increasing scale, whereas people who are older are moving out of town and younger families are moving in. It's kind of a,
It's cyclical, so
it's
I mean,
cyclical.
so it's
And
all
that
gonna
here
happen.
is what I'm seeing is that that's rising, and that's gonna impact your projections, because if you just take it stagnant right now and project the future, it would seem that those numbers of people older would increase.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that that's gonna change a lot. That we're gonna have a much more balance.
Okay,
Interesting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your hard work. You spent, and the committee have spent a lot of time on this.
and thank you for coming in.
Thanks.
Okay, final review of articles and motions and to sign the warrants for special town meeting on October 22nd. Is there anybody in here? She must have been happy. Is anybody in here want to talk about or want to discuss any specific articles? I'm assuming that. So it was kind of a rhetorical question in the sense that they're way in the back, and if you want to just hang out here all night, I might be able to take them out of order for you so you don't have to hang out here until we get them, because you have to go through a bunch of them. Is that okay with everybody?
Yep.
Is that okay with you, Angus?
Great.
Mary, you were all in line?
Do it.
Okay, so I take it you're here for the bylaws? Okay, want to come up, or is there anything in particular? Well, let's have our discussion. So we're here to review basically the motions tonight, correct? And talk about,
Well, we have.
Well, we didn't
Yeah.
vote on a few of the articles.
Yep.
The two zoning bylaws were pending.
and so is it fair to say that your, the proposal, the public hearings were even pushed back even farther? Because I did make that announcement. Is that correct, that they're now going to be on October 16th?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. So are you here to answer questions? Did you here to talk to us about this?
I think we're here because we asked them to come in.
I'm Ann Bardine, I'm the chair of the planning board in the.
You need to really, really bring that microphone up to you. I'm sorry, Ann.
Ann Bardine, planning board chair, and he is the vice chair at this point, and we never know. One thing I wanted to mention, we've been making bylaw tweaks and changes and proposals all the time. The public hearing that's held very close to town meeting is generally considered to be a review of the final wording before we go to town meeting. It's not a fair characterization to say the only place where people have input. As an example, I'll use the solar bylaw. The solar bylaw was generally being looked at for quite a long time. Webb had a proposal on Coffin Street. There were many citizens who tried to on that. Rose Terry, who lives in Coffin Street, in fact, brought forward some of her bylaw proposals of her own. There's a lot of talk about this.
There was a lot of discussion.
After town meeting in April, the first meeting that we held on May 1st, we committed to making some revisions to the zoning bylaw because there have been all these issues with it. So at our May 15th, June 5th, June 19th, July 17th, and August 21st meetings, we had extensive discussions about this, well attended by many members of the public. These were all posted meetings, all the minutes are available online. And then at our meeting, for September meeting, we set the date for the public hearing. And all these things are statutorily driven, how much notice we need to have for the meeting, how long before the meeting gets advertised, and so forth. So that's where we came up with our initial October 2nd date. We unfortunately had to change that to the 16th. So I just wanted to make the public aware of the fact that there have been a lot of opportunities to discuss this.
I would, excuse me, Joe, I would agree with that, but until it gets really into the public, and it really, we sit here and talk about things for a year, and then when we have that major public hearing, all of a sudden, people come out of the woodwork and say, how could you have done this? We don't know, we haven't known about this. And we get so frustrated. So I would not say that the public hearing is just to tell everybody what you guys decided. I would hope that it would be part of the process, and tweaks and changes could be made to it after you would listen to the public, because that is statutorily, that is what the process is.
And that could still happen. I think that's still possible. We can change language right on top of the floor. I also want to make the point that that the vote of the Board of Selectmen is a vote on the content of the bylaw, or the content of whatever article is proposed,
Content of the warrant.
content of the warrant.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for the vast majority of articles on the warrant, they sort of stand alone, and you talk to the boards and you think about them and you decide what to vote on. So I'm not sure that waiting for the public hearing
Well,
is
I don't
necessarily
understand.
something that needs to be linked to your vote.
Well, I don't understand what you're saying by that. So when we have,
You said you didn't want to vote until.
yeah, no, but
the
I
hearing
didn't mean about the reference you said about other things. So we have other warrant articles that are on here
Right.
that won't change, or potentially, not the fact that they won't change, they will not change. So we have some responsibility of informing the people. That's why we have to have the
Not
warrant.
having a moving target.
Exactly. We have to inform them. That's why we have to, 2 weeks beforehand, we have to post it. So the warrants have to be informing the people what's going to be voted on.
The warrant
You know what I mean?
article is written and submitted in the timeframe required. The people have been informed. The article is in the warrant.
So then you're saying that if some great ideas come up at this public hearing, you won't listen to them and won't change that. You won't change this. I mean, it was kind of a rhetorical, I mean, not a rhetorical, but
We certainly will listen to what's suggested or commented on at the public hearing. We could do one of two things. If it's one particular item or a sentence, we could offer that change on the floor, or we could move no action because there were new ideas or new information, and moving no action has happened in the past. So it's likely there'll be a few people at the hearing. It's probably the same people who've been to all of our hearings.
or no people at the hearing.
Or, frankly, that's more likely the case
I agree with you.
from past experience.
But do you understand how it looks, that we're going to vote on an article that before the content of this article, and we're going to vote yes or no on it, before there's any public hearing to get the citizens' views to see if they can change it, because this is very unique in the process. When you referenced about the other articles, they generally don't have a public hearing that is set forth so you could get the public's view on it and then listen to them and potentially make changes or not make any at all. So it makes us, I don't know. I've done enough talk. Joe, do you have any questions?
I do.
Okay, Archie?
Okay, I have, I believe that Article 8 effectively eliminates the possibility of any overlay district in the town of West Newbury, and I have a problem with that. If we think, I don't have the numbers with me, but I figured them out at the last meeting, that if we had applied the setback standards, for example, that are proposed here in Article 8, the existing community town solar field would be reduced in size from it would be 1/4 the size of what it is now. And I don't think anybody has had an objection to the size of that field. A few people have. Some people don't like solar fields under any circumstances, but for the most part, everyone has been pretty positive about the Page School solar field. So if we applied the setbacks here, we would only have 1/4 the size of the existing number of panels on that field. And I was trying to get a piece of chalk so I could draw over there, but you'll have to use your imagination. So let's say a farmer has a field.
Excuse me, you need to bring that with you.
Instead of having, instead of wanting to do corn, he wants to have a solar field and use but use that income to keep the rest of his farm viable. If this was, and 4 acres would not be an unreasonable amount, an unreasonable size for an unused field, and hopefully it could be on the south facing, but out of the public view. If this was 4 acres, 200 this way, 800 this way, not an unusual lot, 0. A 4-acre lot with these setbacks would be impossible to have a single solar panel put on it for commercial uses. So I think we're affected. The idea is that we could put it in the industrial zone, our so-called commercial zone, but we know that that's
Not feasible.
that's impossible, and that's really a specious argument to say that. So
It goes, you know.
so
it's
I mean,
limited, it goes to that.
we're a green community. All I get is so many people that we've got to cut our energy use. That we have to worry about the future in terms of planning for climate change. But when push comes to shove, it seems like we're trying to shove it away. So I have a major problem with it.
When push came to shove in April, it was pretty clear that people were unhappy with that proposal. A couple of things about the math that you just described. We're not talking about a 4-acre parcel, we're talking about a 4-acre maximum size of an installation, which would require quite a bit larger underlying parcel. To your point about the Page School, without getting too nerdy about it, that district was carved out of a larger parcel. And if you wanted to carve out a district such as to allow for 150-foot setback, you would have just carved out a larger district. It wouldn't be impossible, it would just be a different district, that's all.
Yeah,
It would have to
but
be
I think,
significantly bigger.
yeah, but I think,
It's not on that part, it's just a boundary on a map. And then within that, you would put the Page School parcel.
well, I understand, but that means you'd have to have
But all-
that available land to carve out. I think that's.
You're making it
That's what our-
essentially impossible to do, is what I'm
Because
saying.
there's not enough land. to be
This
able to
is
carve
a
out.
4-acre lot is that's sort of cleared on a farm, and you're going to need a really large, an enormous lot to make anything viable. That you're trying to make it legal but impossible.
Well, speaking of legal but impossible, I kind of piggyback on this, that can we ask ourselves the question, does this really meet the spirit of the green community standard? Because I would say no. You're supposed to be able to have a solar field by right and not having to obtain a special permit. So I'm not sure that this is legal, actually.
Well, first of all, green community is a designation, it's not a law, so, but Leanne's been doing the research on it.
Well, I wanted to go back to.
Could you bring that microphone closer? I'm sorry to
wanted
keep
to
on
go
saying
back to the
that. You can
setback.
move it to you if you want to sit back. You don't have to keep it on the table.
I wanted to go back to the setback issue.
Okay, let's start with that one first, please.
We did look at about 10 other communities and their zoning bylaws on this, and some of the towns had setbacks that were the same as their zoning districts. So, 30 feet side yard setback in the residential zone, it would be, if your district overlay was in that residential zone, it will be 30 feet. Other towns, like Stowe, they had larger side and rear yards for these kind of installations that abutted residential zoning districts. And we saw anywhere from 50 feet to 150 feet. So it was
one of the more restrictive. It was the more restrictive that the board chose, but it wasn't pulled out of thin air, I guess. And the board was looking at Coffin Street and some of the larger parcels, I think, when thinking about that setback. And, you know, in terms of it, this other one's a tough one, the special permit. It's a really tough one, I agree. So some of the other towns we looked at, Air, Atoll, Dudley, and Stowe, they prohibited solar installations in some districts. For example, Air prohibited them in the residential and downtown mixed-use districts, but they were allowed by right in the industrial district.
But
Yes,
think of
I-
Air
nope,
has
if
a
I-
huge industrial area. We
Right.
do not.
Right, so that's
We
the
pretend that
clarification.
things go there to die.
And which is unfortunate, I mean, that's addressing another
Yep.
planning issue about
There's
where
no
do-
access, there's no, I
where
mean,
can we
it's-
put these kind of uses? But, so today, the Green Communities Group got back to us. Rick Parker of the Energy Advisory Committee had reached out to Green Communities to talk to them about our proposal, which is great, I think. And they came back today and they shared with us some guidance criteria from fall of 2018. So it's like hot off the press, it seems. And so we knew that, you know, we knew what the criteria is, but some of this, you know, they're fine-tuning that criteria here. And I do have some questions about it. I'd like to talk to Neil Duffy some more to see where we're at. And, you know, the board was, I'll just back up. The board was trying to address concerns, and the board made a commitment at the town meeting that they would come with an article ASAP. So that's what they did. And there was debate about the special permit. There was a lot of debate about it. And they wanted to get something submitted. They wanted to have the hearing. They wanted to see where people were at to fulfill their commitments and address this. And I think it's, I mean, from my standpoint, I think there are still things to talk about. And I take your comments very seriously.
That's a good lead into my next comment, because I agree with you, Leah, that I think there's still things to talk about. So here's something to think about. If you're getting this kind of feedback, and I think there is 3 distinct issues that were brought before you, you may want to think about this, because it's a high hurdle to get a 2/3 vote for a zoning amendment, and as you know, then you're precluded from bringing it back for a couple of years. So you may want to think about it and maybe bring it back in the spring, but that's up to you.
Well, especially if you're saying that you have questions and you don't have all your answers to your questions. And I'm kind of a big process person, and I want to feel, I think this is important, and I actually commend the planning board for this, because they listened to some citizens and listened to town meeting, and they wanted to make some changes. But if we go forward with it, and the total process in people's mind, it doesn't really matter if it's real or not, but if people feel like the process wasn't properly played out, that this could be shut down because of that, and then we really can't get some good change, because now we can't bring it back for how long?
2
It's
years.
2 years.
And also, it'll give opportunity to get clarity on the Green Communities standard.
And bring it to the spring. So we would ask if you would take it off, or do we have the ability to take it off since it's our warrant, Mike? That was the question last
They can't,
meeting.
okay, we're kind of in a situation here. We have to vote the warrant. They can't take it off. They have 2 members here. They don't have a quorum, so they're not voting anything tonight.
But can we take it
We'll
off?
take your concerns to the full board and we'll decide how we want to proceed as a board.
But can we take it off because it's our warrant? That was the question last week. Because we can take
I
any
mean,
other
it's kind of
article
this-
off if we want.
Can we take a planning board?
Yeah,
That
well,
was the question.
I don't
The
know.
difference is, and this is kind of what we had talked about last year, when we had a landowner submitted zoning article.
Mm-hmm.
Since 48 Section 5,
That
has
was
a
a
process.
citizen's petition, though.
Well, but the planning board is one of the bodies that is statutorily entitled to request zoning amendments.
Yes.
And so it would kind of go against the spirit of 48 if the board could act as a block and just take it off.
But could we take it off, because obviously those zoning amendments have to follow a certain procedure. And now the deadline of voting the warrant is upon us, and those procedures have not been fulfilled.
I have to object to that.
Oh,
That's
ma'am,
not.
excuse me, I'm running this meeting, please, can you please, I'm asking the council a question, if
The
you have a
answer
question,
is
that's not a
that-
problem.
is that-
I'm just asking the questions, because these are the questions that have been asked of us,
The
so I want to make
process-
sure that we get all the answers, so then we can have a discussion about it. If it is, it is, it's not,
The process
move on.
in 48, Section 5 does not coincide with your process for putting things on the warrant. It basically says that the planning board has to have a public hearing and give its recommendations. They could theoretically have the public hearing the day before the town meeting vote and give their recommendations. So there's no, I mean, it's not part of the same process. So you can't say that, it's more of a, as you pointed out, the perception of how things should go as opposed to
Perfect.
statutory.
I read, Mike, I read section 48, chapter 48, section 5, it's right here. And I basically drew no conclusion whether they have the ability or not have the ability. I mean, it's everything you just said, but it really doesn't say the next thing.
well, he didn't say that either, he said the spirit of it.
Yes.
He said,
Well, that's
you know,
true. You're right.
He didn't say it, he said it would be the spirit of it. Okay, so I just wanted Mike to finish that, you guys, the burst out, so now we got the answer, so that's a good thing, because those were questions that were asked of us, so I wanted to make sure in open form, those answers were done, so we can put those to rest. Now, do you have any comments on anything that Mike said? You said you wanted to?
No, you said I think it was Joe, you said there were three concerns. I want to get away from all this procedural stuff for a moment, because what we'd like to do tonight is figure out the concerns that we need to take back to the full board so we can vote.
Okay, Archie was talking about the,
setbacks.
and Glenn was talking about the public.
Public hearing?
He was talking about the public hearing, I was talking about green communities.
Okay, and special permit, that seemed to be another one.
Well,
That's the green communities
community
portion.
and special, that was part of green communities.
I have a question, I don't, oh, sorry, that, your item 6, reducing the maximum height of appurtenant structures, so 35 to 15 feet. What, I guess I don't know what the appurtenant structures would be, or if that is also a complete handicap to someone actually being able to create anything.
The 35 came from, I think originally from the state zoning bylaw, which caps everything at 35 feet, houses, barns, whatever it is. Appurtenant structures for these kinds of uses are usually equipment sheds or little things that they might have there to enclose some, I don't know, equipment of some sort. They're
Switches or something. Or,
That
yeah.
electrical, they said that Coffin Street said they were gonna have some type of a, like a,
Typically a one-story shed,
just to bring all the electricity into it, then be able to do it, maybe some,
very small inside.
non-panel structures.
Okay.
do we have any more questions about this? Mike,
Yeah, I mean, just
you need to get to the
one
microphone.
other concern, which is unique to this bylaw, is the limitation on the size. Essentially, is that there's a limitation to what, being 4 acres, right? I think it is, as to how big any solar field can do. That probably would also make it commercially unviable, is that no one's gonna, because you have to spend the same amount of money to connect into the 3-phase power, to do all this, and if you only have, if your cost per kilowatt hour is limited, then you
The
basically.
economy, it just won't meet the economies of scale of setting something up.
That's the paid school with its existing footprint and then using these setbacks would be completely non-viable. It'd be a non-starter.
Okay, do we have any more questions on 8? Sure.
Say that the Page School meets the criteria of a large-scale solar array. It's over the 250 kilowatt size, about 400 kilowatts.
Correct, but if you use the existing boundary, if you took the
Not the
50
existing.
to
We
150.
understand your concern about the boundary, but I believe we can limit the size because it does meet the green communities standard of something in excess of 250 kilowatts is a large-scale solar array. It says it's very clear in their information.
I'm not saying it doesn't, but I'm saying it wouldn't work. It would be impossible. No one would build it.
I'm sorry.
I think he's talking about something other than the green communities aspect of it.
Yeah.
He's just saying that it wouldn't be,
You're talking about back with the setback.
yeah,
Yes.
it just wouldn't be feasible. For somebody, it's like, you make it so restrictive that nobody will do it, so you say we'll do it, but nobody will do it because it's so restrictive. I think that's what Archie's making.
Yeah.
Points. Do you have copies of the stuff did we get copies of the green community stuff to us?
I can forward you an email that was sent to me.
Would you send it to Angus? And,
Actually, I forwarded it to Mike this evening. I can forward it to Angus as well.
so then he can have it and distribute it to us?
But essentially, as I read it, what it says.
Hold on, you got to use the microphone.
I'm sorry.
I recognize you, but yeah, I'm sorry. I was starting to have a conversation and I realized that we can't have that because nobody will be able to hear you.
So as I read the email that I received earlier today, although the green communities, the folks at Green Communities are not going to specifically rule or give us, definitive feedback on our bylaws, what they did is they pointed to the Green Communities documentation that we signed into, 6 or 7 years ago, and that has been, in place for 10 years. And it says specifically that you can't require a special permit for zoning.
You cannot.
You cannot require a special permit for zoning within the districts that you're covering.
That was my point. Did you guys just hear that?
Yes, and this document does say that. That was one of the questions I had, because we have a number of communities that we looked at that do require a special permit in certain zoning districts.
Well, just because they do it doesn't mean that it's right.
But they
Yeah.
also probably have
Also
viable.
communities.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that there's right. Maybe they're just doing it. So I think we probably want to fashion ourselves after somebody who's doing it right and somebody who's not doing it right.
Yeah, they also probably have other viable districts, which we don't have.
Okay, there you go.
And they also may have just done it under the radar and not asked the question. I can't comment on that, but personally, I don't think that's the right way to live.
No, of course not. Okay. Now, any more questions on 8?
No.
Okay, 9. Do you have any questions on 9?
No, I actually would agree with your comment about the public hearing aspect of that also, for 9.
Mm-hmm. The open space setback stuff. Okay, any questions?
No.
Okay. You guys have anything more?
The one question, just
Sure.
how did you come up with the 20-foot minimum distance between the buildings? What's
What
the
number?
science behind that?
I don't think there's any science behind any of the zoning bylaw. There's
This particular one you're saying?
the entire zoning bylaw. I don't know that science ever enters into it.
Well, you know what I mean.
I would say that we've worked with it on a couple of projects now. We've seen how it builds out. We've heard complaints from developers and residents who say, gee, I can't even get in there to mow the lawn, and we're trying to find a number that feels comfortable. 20 feet seemed to be the right number.
And with the Cottage Advisors project and Drake's Landing, 20 feet was the minimum distance the board set through special permit. So they set the standard with that and saw how it worked. So
There's science
a
involved in it. You
minimum
saw how it
of
worked in the
20
field, listened to
feet
people.
was, what it chose.
Okay. Any other questions on this one? Angus, you have any? Mike? No? Okay, thank you very much.
So hold on. So we have not voted to include this in the warrant or not. We have not taken a vote. So what are we doing?
We have to.
Yeah, we're gonna get to it. Now we're gonna start from the beginning because I think there's other people here, and then we're gonna come down to it.
Okay, just asking.
I just was being respectful because they were in the audience, and it would have been like an hour until we got to them.
Okay, that's fine.
And we appreciate your
Well, we kind of have that pact too, that if we see employees too that are here, we try to take them before so you can go home. Thank you. Okay, thanks. You're welcome. Enjoy. Okay, so you want to start with the special town meeting, obviously, because that's what we're having. And,
So in terms of the articles, so what's before us is the articles and the motion.
yep,
As far as the articles, the only thing that I see that we need to discuss and/or vote an article would be Article 7 on the amount, and then Articles 8 and 9 that we just discussed.
okay,
And then-
7 in
and
the
then we
amount.
have to talk about the motions, but.
Yep.
separate.
And then we have to
Yeah.
talk about the
Okay,
motions.
do we have a,
And-
yep.
Well, and I don't think, did we vote Article 13? I don't have a vote for that. I don't think we did.
Which one's 13?
Cottage advisors. Oh, no, we did. It was the Finance Committee that did it. I take that back. We did vote that.
Okay, you ready?
Okay,
I'm ready.
so back to 7.
Okay, 7. Angus, do you have any new information that we can plug a number in here that we could talk about and vote on?
Yes, based on the updated assessed value information that we received early last week, I think I would be very comfortable with the number of 220,000 rather than the 400 that's in there.
Okay, I move to approve Article 7 with a revised number of $220,000.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, the funding,
Free cash?
Free cash.
okay?
It has to be free
All,
cash.
I understand, but
Okay.
it's just, there's a procedural thing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 220. Okay, and then,
So it's more in line with
No.
past, a little higher, but more in line, not anywhere near 400,000.
same buy-downs we've done in the 2 previous years. So, Article 8, what do you want to do?
Well, we have to vote to.
You want to vote it?
We have to vote to put it on, and then we have to vote to our recommendation for the Finance Committee.
Well, I was going to ask, well, I did ask, but they had no intention of doing it, and they didn't have the ability to do it, I don't think. To ask, give the planning board, because the process, in my mind, has not been completed, and there's too many questions, especially with 8.
I'm not sure 8 is it's not right for a number of reasons.
Yeah, so I was going to ask them to take it off, but,
We did ask them, but they can't.
yeah, they can't, I understand. So you want to get some information from the finance committee before we decide?
Well, they voted 5-0 to approve it. I don't know if that's changed.
Sorry, which article?
8 and 9.
The numbers have all changed since last week, so.
You want to come on up?
What's changed?
You need to get a microphone. Please state your name.
Yeah, what's changed since
Yeah,
last week?
Forbes Stewart, Vice Chair for the Finance Committee, 8 and 9. Those were 7 and 8. Those are the two.
The solar.
No, 8 and 9.
The solar district.
Well, he may have different numbers, but.
Yeah, yeah, the 2 solar ones.
Sorry, we voted 5 unanimously to approve it.
On which one?
Both of the
Okay, so that didn't
planning
change.
board.
Okay.
But
What changed since last week?
nothing with regard to that vote. The only thing I was going to mention is that tonight, separately with regard to the car easement and the free cash articles, the Finance Committee on both articles voted unanimously to approve them.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Yep.
Joe, I think the numbers he was referring to was the sequence of the numbered of the articles.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Okay, what do you want to do? Joe,
Well, I say we keep it on and then we vote, give our opinion on it. Or I don't know if we have the ability to take it off.
we have the ability to take it off. It says we do have the ability to take it off, but I think Mike's advising us, in the spirit of this whole thing, we should probably keep it on. But there is no law that we cannot take it, we can take it off.
That's my interpretation.
And it gets a little too gray.
That is all. Well, it's not gray in my mind that we have the ability to leave it on or take it off, but I agree about the spirit of it. So in that spirit, I will move to include Articles 8 and 9 on the fall town meeting warrant.
Second.
Now, we're not voting.
I understand.
We're just adding.
Okay, well, we don't have to add because they're on. We would only have to take them off.
No, we didn't vote. I don't think we actually.
Okay,
voted
so,
on it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Been moved and seconded. moved by Joe, seconded by Archie.
So now we're going to vote yes or no
On 8.
Yeah, on 8. All motions are in the affirmative, so I move to approve Article 8. This is for the Selectmen's recommendation.
Second, been moved and second, any discussion? I'm going to vote no.
I'm voting no.
I'm voting no.
Okay. Yep. We don't, and then number 9, Joe?
I move to approve Article 9.
I moved, and then I'll second it. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I vote no.
I vote no.
I abstain.
Okay, I seconded on both of them. Joe moved on both of them, I second both of them. The first one was 003, and then the other one was 013. It was 2.
No, 030.
Yeah.
The first one.
Yeah, 030, and then the next one was 021.
Just for clarification, gentlemen, the first one was the solar overlay. And
Correct.
The second one was the okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, just in case you get the numbers wrong.
Yep.
Okay, so now let's go, okay, now we've completed all the articles, and our votes on the articles, so. Do we have any?
A typo. I don't know who's doing the warrant, but the constable's name is, I think there's a typo there.
Okay, we'll fix that. Do we have any questions on the warrants, excuse me, on the motions? I don't want to go through every motion, do you?
Has an S at the end?
It says
No.
Richard's son.
No O-N.
Do you want to go through every single motion, or you have any questions on the motions?
No.
Do you have any questions? Mike, do you have any questions on the motions? Mary, Angus? You have any questions?
I don't have any questions. I went through it.
Yeah, we do.
Okay,
So
anything?
just to go through real quick, the first two, the Board of Health would make the motion. Article 4, CCC, 5, Park and Rec, 6 and 7, Board of Selectmen, 8 and 9, Planning Board, 10, 11, 12, and 13, Board of Selectmen. Is that what you have? Or did I say that too quick?
Start it from the beginning, Joe, and go slow for her, please.
The board or committee making the motion. Article 2, Board of Health. Article 3, Board of Health. Article 4, CCC. 5, Park and Rec. 6 and 7, Board of Selectmen. 8 and 9, Planning Board. 10, 11, 12, 13, Selectmen.
And just go down alphabetical order. Start from the,
Yeah, there's 6 of them, so it doesn't matter.
yeah, it just,
Doesn't matter anyway.
Mary? Alphabetical order, last name. Whenever the first one shows up, that motion goes to Joe. The second one goes, no, Anderson, Archibald. So it would go, just do it alphabetical order. It just 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Okay. So I move, any further discussion?
No.
No.
I move to approve the motions as written.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do we have any discussion? This is down. We can hand this over to the planning board. Anything else? Angus?
Well, I think it's implicit in what you said, but with the change to Article 7.
Yeah.
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 Did you already say that?
Yeah. Well, we voted to change.
Right. Okay. But just with the motions.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Hold on, please. Angus, you gotta use it.
Angus, just in relation to the amount of, so we will know at town meeting whether we have enough free cash to cover that.
Yes. We know that now.
I know we
right.
do.
We'll
but
have
just
it, right.
Legally, yeah.
Yeah.
When do you have an expectation of?
No, you have
I
to
know.
The question from Joe was when do we expect to have the numbers certified? They estimate about 10 days. It went to the state last Wednesday, so we should have something by the end of next week.
Terrific.
If not sooner.
Forbes? You need to use a microphone, even though with that beautiful voice is.
Crank it up another couple days.
No.
Just wanted to inquire if the board had voted for sunset clauses for the appropriate expenditure articles, and if they are, I can get them.
Good point.
Good point.
That would have to be in the motion. And then we had not done that.
Thank you, Forbes.
Thank you, Forbes. Okay. So can you just, can we not vote this any longer? Didn't we make it a policy that we would?
We just wanted to do it de rigueur, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Do it all the time. De rigueur means you're gonna just do it, it's just a policy. We don't have to vote it every time. Every time there is an appropriate article that a sunset clause will apply to that.
Oh, the sunset clause, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so just where it applies.
Yes. Well, then the question becomes,
When does it apply?
when is it?
Any
Common sense on it.
any money article, okay, what about something like this? That it all ends in 1 year unless specified by the person putting it in. So if hypothetically the DPW goes, you know what, yeah, I know we have a policy about a sunset clause of a year, or obviously when a year, but, you know, this is a big, huge project, I might need 2 or 3 years. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah, for instance.
And that should be part of their packet when they present it to you guys, that it's implied it's a year unless requested.
The only one, would the landfill be more than a year article? No,
No, because they would be,
it's all this year, okay.
right, they'll be budgeting separately for
Does that sound fair?
So is there anything that would go beyond this fiscal year?
I believe the CPC article, the expectation is that their process is going to extend past the end of the fiscal year. I know, I just got an updated document just this morning from Bill that talks about their expectation, if they get the funding, of bringing something forward next fall. So I would suggest.
Well, that's for funding.
Right, but
Not.
I would suggest with that one to give the flexibility, because if the process plays out past June.
Well, there you go.
You know.
Well, a year, not a fiscal year. So they would have a year when it's appropriated. It's appropriated on October 26th. You can spend articles in the next fiscal year. They don't have to be, it's not like the operating budget where it has to be spent in the
Right.
same fiscal year.
Right.
So we give them a year, so that it would be October.
Okay, I've seen other sunset clauses at the end of the fiscal year, so I assume that's how it was done, but if you do.
That's what we did all the other ones.
Okay. What were you gonna say, Forbes?
I can't speak for the committee, but I believe the committee would expect that sounds reasonable.
A year or at the end of the fiscal year?
That's what I want to clarify.
One
Calendar year or
Yeah.
one fiscal year?
I don't care. I want to get beyond this real quick and just make a policy.
I think the accounting would become problematic if you're ending things in the middle of the fiscal year. It's clear
But
if you,
it's happened a billion times.
but it's easier if you just have it at the end of the fiscal year.
Unless, but that needs to make sure during the process that department heads that are asking for money need to know that, because, whatever, that's fine. But you know that sometimes doesn't
I mean,
happen.
there is a situation, a supplier can't get some.
Yeah, we have one right now that the Board of Health, that particular article would not apply to the fiscal year, and Angus is asking us that maybe we should extend that to a calendar year. Or there's no sunset clause on that one. I don't know. So what do you want to do, guys? Let's do it quick, though.
My recommendation would be for all of the spending articles to have it by the end of the current fiscal year, with the sole exception of the CPC article, which I would recommend to the end of FY '20. 20?
The CPC or the Board of Health?
The CPC.
CCC?
CPC.
CPC.
The Park and Rec.
Yes, okay, fine.
So moved. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Yes.
Did you guys approve except for 8 and 9?
Correct. Okay, next thing on the agenda, did you want to speak to anything else, or are you just hanging? What about you?
Just witnessing.
Okay.
Taking it
Are you all set? Okay. No, that's fine. I just want to make sure that you're not hanging and we're still going with stuff. Make a motion to, huh?
What about me?
What do you mean?
We just hanging?
Selectmen's meeting minutes. Anybody want to make a motion of them?
We have been meeting. Did you do E? We're on E.
Oh, I should probably put my glasses on.
You want me to make a motion and we can discuss it?
Discuss assessing a fine for late filing of a special events permit. You have a motion already set for that?
Yes. So what we're talking about is when people file special event applications with tight lead time, it creates
No.
a lot of extra work and fire drills in the office.
Within the 60 days, not tight limits, just say it.
Yeah, within the
We
60
require 60 days, and anybody applying within those 60 days.
So we're going to vote for an administrative fee. So my question is, I was personally thinking if it's filed at the 30-day mark versus the 60-day mark.
So between 60 and 30, there is no administrative fee, but
Well,
between 30 and,
So then it doesn't work if.
yeah, then forget the 60-day thing.
Well, what I was
So
gonna say-
maybe,
Okay,
okay.
what I was going to say is, you get applications, and you can say this is true or not. You get applications, and often they're incomplete, and they don't have insurance.
That's correct, and a lot of times they're waiting to get that one-day insurance policy until the event gets closer.
So is it reasonable to have the certificate of insurance within 30 days?
I would say most instances, but there are some that,
Why?
because they just,
I don't know.
because it's,
But that's
generally it's
the response I've received.
Okay.
yeah, it's generally it's a,
Okay, so that was what I wanted to know. So now I'll go back to the 60-day thing, and so we'll just make it 60 days. Okay?
you have an amount?
Yeah, $100.
Okay,
So
make the motion.
I move to impose a $100 administrative fee if a special event application is not filed within the 60-day deadline, or the applicant has the option of moving the event so that it is 60 days.
And when you say file an application,
So they-
file a complete application.
Well, that's what I just asked her. You can't. A complete application is certificate of insurance. So what I'm saying is they file an application, the date stamp on it when it's received is more than 60 days to the event.
Okay, and the application needs to be complete with information except for,
Within reason, there might be some little thing. that-
well, here we go, then.
No, but
then it's-
there might be something that we ask for that say Mary doesn't even know
I'd say
about.
application filed.
You see what I mean?
Okay.
Is that?
No, like.
So XYZ Running Club, I'm filing an application to have a road race on October 3rd, and I'm doing it in August. I don't give you any more information. That application is filed. I don't give you the course, I don't give you the,
Okay, so how?
I'm not trying to be a thing, but so I don't want to have to, I'm trying to make it easy for these guys.
That's the whole purpose
So
of it.
they don't have, so it's black and white. So no, it's not filled out. It has to be completely filled out, and then we'll give exceptions for certificates of insurance. Boom.
Is certificate insurance the only thing that really delays it? Or is there anything else?
Yeah, I mean, look at the apple harvest thing there and the liquor license.
Well, that's a
the
separate.
other.
That's
not
liquor
for the
license
race.
is
That's
some type
separate.
of thing.
That's separate.
That's not a special.
Still part of their application.
I wouldn't say that's part of it.
No, okay.
We've been
All right.
working on this.
Then yes, I would say insurance is probably the thing that holds them up.
Wait a minute, they're talking, you're talking. Sorry, I can't hear
The
you.
insurance is generally one of the last things to come through the door.
So we're looking for guidance from you because we're trying to help you.
Yeah, so if you want to use that as an exception, I would say
So
that.
with the exception of the, so a completed application with the exception of the certificate insurance.
I would suggest substantially complete, because what we don't want to get into is if there's something that's a little bit off, that's why you have the review process. You don't expect, that's why you review it, in case there's something that's a little off and they tweak it. I don't want to feel that we have to find someone if they submit it timely and there's some adjustment.
See,
I mean,
that's what I
it's just,
meant.
I think that's what I was
That's what I'm
hearing, yeah.
Well, that's fine. Tweaks is different than just putting your name on something
Yes.
and not having the.
No,
I think
but Glenn,
substantially
all I'm saying
complete is
you
an
said,
understandable
I don't want
term.
the porta
Yeah.
potties on that corner, I want them on a different corner.
I agree with
But they
that.
wouldn't even know that until they saw.
No. But that the application though is filed though, and all the information there, then we tweak it. Because it's filed and things could change because the chief of police could change it.
Yeah.
Or whomever.
I think we're in agreement on that, yeah.
Do you have enough information that it's clear to you?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so
Call it a
make a motion.
administrative convenience fee.
Just administrative fee, and that's effective for any new application starting this minute.
Even nonprofits?
Yes, anybody.
Okay.
Because that nonprofit, we're waiving their fee. They still have to, it creates the same issue that anyone else does.
I understand. So,
Good question, that.
no, yeah, so can we, since this was Joe's idea, you're the one who deals with the garden club?
Yep.
Okay. Good luck.
Well, they can move the data there.
I'm kidding.
Are you talking about the?
You want to make a motion? I don't know, I'm just being a jerk. It's me trying to be funny again and realizing realizing I'm not funny. Exactly.
I move to approve the selectmen minutes of September 17th.
Seconded for discussion?
I wasn't
Archie's-
here, but there is a couple errors.
Okay.
He
caught them in Scotland.
The appointments end June 30th, 2018, and those already, that
Yeah.
date has already gone by.
They need to be, so the changes to the minutes, they have to reflect 2019. All in favor with those amendments? Aye.
Abstain.
Angus,
Yes.
this is your part of the agenda.
Holidays. So,
And it's not 9 o'clock.
what I've put before you is a proposed draft schedule of holiday recognitions. And as I said in the memo, I try to do this at the beginning of each fiscal year so everybody is on the same page in terms of when the closings are and so forth. So this year, it's all pretty much Monday holidays, so, but there are a couple of judgment calls in here.
And they are.
I'm told that in the past, there have been, at times, early closings, whether the day before Christmas, the day before Thanksgiving, and those are the kinds of things I'd like to kind of push those questions and say, if we're gonna do them, let's put it on the calendar so people can plan. If we're not gonna do them, we won't do them.
Give me those again.
So the first one would be the day before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Which would be Wednesday, 11/21.
Okay.
The other would be Christmas Eve is a Monday this year.
So there wouldn't be an early closing that day.
Well, not unless we, that's stated. And New Year's Eve is a Monday as well.
Okay. So can you define an early closing? What's that?
Well, I would defer to what has been the culture. I'm new
I don't
here,
think we've ever closed early the day before Thanksgiving. The only question that was there was the day after Thanksgiving. We've never closed unless nobody's telling us. I don't remember ever authorizing.
I think when Mike Bertino was here, I think there was a couple times. Yeah,
I remember that too.
The day before Thanksgiving?
Yes.
Wow.
It was like 2 or 3.
He doesn't want.
One of the questions.
He doesn't
also
work here
relates-
anymore.
One of the question also relates to the library, and I recognize they have their own authority.
We can't do anything about that.
Okay, and that's actually one of the questions I had. So
We can't do anything about the library.
where they're
Right.
open later on Wednesdays, that's
But the only thing with the library is that if they adjust their times, they can't pay people for hours that were not worked. That was the problem before.
The hourly people.
Yeah, the hourly people.
So
So if we give people like days off before these holidays, do they promise to come in when it snows? Because it seems to we have a problem when we get like an inch of snow. It turns into a problem, nobody wants to come to work.
the snow policy I'll bring forward in a future meeting, for sure.
I can't wait for that
That'll
one.
be a.
You gotta do that, all kidding aside, you gotta do that soon, because
I-
all of a sudden, the whole world, I'm out on the roads working a regular job, and nobody can come to work. It's very problematic. You just ask Joe. Joe's missed a lot of sleep over it. I have a problem with Thanksgiving, the day before Thanksgiving, if we're gonna do anything on Friday. But I think as being good people, the day before Christmas, even though it's a Christian holiday and probably not observed by everybody that works for us, I would agree with sending some people home early so they could spend some time with their family and friends.
But that doesn't, oh, that's Tuesday.
No, it's a Monday.
Monday.
be a
Okay, so
Monday.
that doesn't apply this year, though.
Yeah, it does, yeah. Christmas Eve is a
Tuesday,
Monday.
so-
Okay, sorry. I thought it was a Monday. Never mind.
Mhm.
I would agree.
Because the whole corporate world will probably have Monday off.
It's gonna be hard to get any phone calls returned on that day.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we actually, so the corporate world has Monday off, but the day before New Year's is not off.
I would agree. So, okay, but let's just talk about the day before. Yeah. What do you think's reasonable?
I don't know, either at noon time or 2 o'clock, one of those two.
So let's make 1 o'clock.
Okay. So we're agreeing to close at 1 o'clock on 12/24.
Unless Santa shows up early, they can leave. Okay, I agree with the Monday before, that's not a holiday, before New Year's Eve.
No.
Everybody works that day.
A lot of people take vacation days, but
They can do whatever they want to do.
I'll be here.
Fine with me. I'm bringing the party hats and the favors, so come on in the shrimp cocktail.
Oh, wait, that's New
You're
Year's
bringing
Eve.
the haggis, right?
I'll bring haggis and fireworks.
Okay, we're all set. That's probably a lot more exciting than what I'm probably going to be doing, would be sitting home, being gone to bed by 10:30.
Oh, that's not a scheduled meeting week. Sorry.
What about the day after Thanksgiving?
Close.
Close.
We should consider just amending our personnel policy if we're going to just give it off.
We're giving it off to, it was only open up until noon, and it's all salaried employees anyways. And, right, there's no real hourly people that work that day, correct?
That's right.
Well,
And the work gets done anyway. That was one of the things Mike Bertino always used to say.
well, no, just, it's okay to do this, but if we're adding a holiday, then part-time employees would get paid according to our holiday schedule.
But I don't want to do that.
Wouldn't that be only if that's a scheduled shift?
No.
No, because I don't want to do it, I don't want to do it right now. Please don't do it
It's
right
hard
now.
to think about that.
It's gonna give me
Talk to you later.
It's gonna give me a popsicle headache. No, you
So-
can explain, you can't get there from here. You really can't. Have Joe, you guys have coffee, go get a sub in Everett, do whatever you need to do, and you can talk about that, yeah.
3/4 hours and all that stuff.
It's worse in the conversation about a special events application that we made maybe a year and a half ago, so we would make it easier for Mary, and it just seems to be amending and more confusing than it's always been. You can't get there from here. You get in one of those endless loops. Okay, next thing.
Are we going to vote this?
What
What are we voting?
We're voting that people can leave at 1 o'clock on Christmas Eve, that we're closed the day after Thanksgiving,
So
and
the town office and public works, or who?
everybody.
Library? Okay.
The library does their own thing. We can't,
So I move to approve closing the day after Thanksgiving and at 1 PM on Christmas Eve.
Second.
discussion, what happens to the police officers and the
I
dispatchers?
think they're governed by contract.
They're covered by contracts, it doesn't apply to them. And during the discussion, the reason why we say this about the library, we have no control, it's not that we're afraid of them, which we all are. They have Board of Library Trustees that it's some,
They run the library.
But
some state law back in the 1800s that we have no control over. They set anything that does, the only thing the town does is allocate the money at town meeting, and then they get to run their position and hire the
Library.
librarian on their own. We have no control over
But
that.
additionally, they actually don't want to close on that day because
It's a big, busy day for them.
Big day, yeah.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Joe made the motion, I seconded it. There was discussion, and we're done. Okay, Angus?
That was 3-0.
Yes.
Yep.
All right, the next,
Status of 90-day in-office goals, baseline responsibilities, and policy priorities.
all right, so,
You've done 5 months' worth of work in 3.
no. Well, probably.
8.
Honestly, but no, in terms of the priorities, no, I wouldn't go that far. The 90 days are all either underway or complete. The 6-month are all underway with the one exception. So I could read them if people are interested of what those goals were.
Well, one thing I realized at our last meeting, and I think I mentioned this to Joe, I'm not sure if I mentioned it with Archie, that sometimes I cut you, you do a lot of work, so it's up to you. Because you do a lot of work and research, and sometimes I cut you off because I think we all know what you mean and we get to it. So you decide how much information you want to give us or not, because you do put a lot of work and preparation on it, and I don't want to just feel that I'm just, okay, yeah, we understand, and then do it. So you decide.
I think, why don't I step back a bit and talk about where I would like to get to. Part of my experience, not just in this town, but in this line of work generally, is that there's the policy priorities that are set by the elected officials tend to compete for time and resources with what I call the baseline work that town employees have to deliver anyway, typically because of mandate from state or feds. A couple of examples right now coming down the pike or active on the stormwater. By the end of FY19, we've got to do a new stormwater management plan, a new IDDE, which is the illicit discharge detection and elimination. It's not just a plan, it's getting everyone trained on it. And there's a couple of construction and post-construction stormwater ordinances. By federal permit, those have to be done by June 30th, for example. The OSHA compliance, that takes effect in February. That applies most particularly to public works and public safety, but it actually applies across the board. They have more requirements in areas of public works, but that's something that applies to every town office. So those are the kinds of things that come up that it's part of my job to make sure those get done, but they don't really, they compete for time. So part of where I would like to get to is that we have really a complete inventory of the things that have to get done and the things we want to get done, so we can make informed decisions about what we're going to do. So one of the projects I'm working on that I had hoped I would have something to present tonight, but it's still a working draft, but it's coming along, I think it's going to be well worthwhile, is trying to get clear on which boards and committees rely on which staff members for support, and whether that's administrative support or professional support, substantive, going to meetings. There's a whole range of what kind of support, but in my observation, there's a number of informal relationships between committees and staff, but in talking with various committee members, I think those committees rely on some level of support from town staff. But
such as the Energy Committee.
That's a great example. So where I would like to get to is that we can. So I've got a spreadsheet of all the committees and staff and so forth, but.
And these aren't in the people's job description.
Exactly.
So it's very hard to evaluate people because they're doing a lot of other cyclical work that's,
That's right. And they're doing work that that's not necessarily where it's properly housed in terms of the org chart. That might not be where you would assign that work if you were kind of stepping back and looking at it. It's just either how it's evolved over time or
who was available that day.
Who was available that day.
Fill the gap.
Yep. So I think I don't want to overly formalize it. It's a small town, everyone's working together, but I think that will be really helpful. I think it'll be helpful to the committees. I think it'll be helpful to the staff people who are doing the work, and I know it will be helpful to me because part of the value of that is making sure that I understand what part of people's time, staff people's time, is already committed to what their job says, and what amount of time is left over for me to push special initiatives or kind of, because some of the things on the list, which are very, very important, like purchasing new software for the finance department is a really important thing, and as part of that, redoing the chart of accounts. I think that's a really important thing, but it's going to take gobs of time. So
to do it right.
To do it right. So I want to make sure before we can research softwares, we can sit around the table and talk about what we might do, but before we pull the trigger and do that, and need to know that basically mid-year you're shifting, or maybe at the fiscal year, but even if it's the fiscal year, June 30th, you know where your books are, but it's not audited. You need to, on that day, you basically need to transfer over your entire financial operation to a new system. So you need it down to the penny it's a huge effort that implicates a number of staff and untold hours. So that's just one example, but I don't want to start things we can't finish. So there are things I want to start, but I don't want to start them until I feel that we're all on the same page in terms of what it's going to take to actually get that done, so that we don't essentially overcommit. I'd rather undercommit and overdeliver than the other way around.
And have a better understanding of where the staff is and what they're doing, so they can help you fulfill those.
Right, and I can be more effective as a manager if people know the expectations, but also if they know that it's not a new priority every day. You know, that every morning I'm going to come in, throw new work, and they're like, well, what about the thing you assigned last week that we're still working on? I don't want to do that, and I haven't, but I can, if I project forward what I've seen in my first 3 months, if we don't do this in an intentional way, I could well see that happening, where we're trying to push too much ahead, and you either, quality control suffers, morale can suffer, people can burn out, and I don't want to see that happen. I do want to get people to where they're at their full utilization, but that's different than burnout. So I mean, I've got a lot of details here. I put together for each of the goals that you'd given me, what they are and kind of where I'm at with them, and I'm happy to go into that detail, but I think, with the memo that you have in your packet, I think you can see where I'm trying to get.
Yeah, we understand. Do we have any questions on that? That might be better served if this is what you gave to us. Do you have any questions?
And I could, I'm sorry to interrupt, I could send out, written something between meetings, and you can kind of see what I'm working on. And just,
I don't think we need to see that. Do you need to see that, Joe?
That's right. I mean, what I would.
When he's done.
No, not until you're done.
Right. What I'd be concerned about is like too many priorities and getting and most of them don't get done. I'd rather prioritize and push out and get things actually completed versus having 15 priorities and nothing happens. What?
completely agree.
I totally agree. How are those job evaluations going? You were pushing on those. I'm just laughing. Never mind. Okay.
I'm fine. And I know a lot of the things you're working on. The only kind of commentary I'd give is, we're going to start the budgeting season soon. Mm-hmm. So I'd be, we kind of need to move that process along, beginning really after fall town meeting. So. Mm-hmm.
I would actually like to have I was going to mention that tonight, have a meeting after fall town meeting for us to start discussing, because we're supposed to kind of prioritize our stuff and then policies and stuff, and then hand it over to Angus. So I want to have that early so then he can start formulating the budget and understand where we stand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, anything else on that?
I would just, since you mentioned the budget, one of the things I've kind of had the assumption I'm going to work with the same format at least for my first budget cycle, just so it's familiar to everyone. But I will say, the way it's set up, I don't feel it doesn't lend itself well to the kind of analysis I'd like to do. So what I'm doing is setting up kind of a parallel where I can look at some trends over time. Eventually, I'd like to get to a budget format where it works and I can do that analysis, but just
and again, this might be too soon too, because I don't know, I haven't looked at it, but I don't know that you have the DLS forecasting tool.
Right.
I mean, is that too soon to move in? Probably.
I think for the next 3 months, between now and the end of the calendar year, I think that's something that definitely merits time to spend some time with. I think there's a lot of value in there. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, people are familiar with the process, but we're not dealing with hundreds and hundreds of people. So I would say, whatever process that you want to go forward with,
it's not a process issue. It's the actual Excel-like format. It's more of a technical issue. So it may be something that I could work with FinCom, and I can say, this is how I've done it elsewhere.
I think you might want to.
Work with you on that.
Yeah, because I don't think we're happy with the old process. It doesn't give us the analysis of stuff that it gives it, but I think there's a little bit more behind the door that we kind of never
We have
really
a
been.
lot of generalized categories.
Yeah, exactly.
What does that mean?
Right, that gets back to the chart of accounts. I would envision, and this is not, for those department heads who may be watching from home, this is not for next year's budget. I think we've got the kind of basic structure that we're gonna have, but I would like to, in FY20, roll out a new chart of accounts that's much more detailed in terms of giving the specificity of what is behind the numbers. Basically to have fewer buckets with less in them, so that you're there are certain things in a budget you can budget really down to the dollar, and there are others where there's some unknowns. And I think to the extent that you can carve out those things that can be budgeted very, down to the dollar, that's great, because then you can see where you're carrying contingency, rather than it just being all bundled together.
Okay. Anything else on that? We can move on. You feel comfortable, Angus?
Yes.
Okay. Follow up on meeting assignments. Pretty set forth here, right? We're going to change a few things on the warrant, some typos that we had. We're going to go get them signed. We're going to get them posted.
Yes.
Can we, we're going to follow up on the water stuff, right, Joe? What about, 1 second, please. What about the, this fee thing? Make sure we publicize that on our website or wherever the app,
Put it on the application.
Yeah.
And that 6-page thing.
Okay.
Should we send it out to those that, I think maybe let them know.
Yeah, just so they know that it's coming, so they don't follow the same late procedure they've always done, because it's always worked that way, and then they get hit with a $100 administrative fee.
Oh, I see, yeah.
Yeah. Forbes?
I forgot to ask this earlier. With regard to the FinCom booklet, has the board or the town manager received feedback about materials that should be in the appendix? We had that discussion came up last night, and since most of us are new, not entirely sure of the guidelines of what does go in there or what's required to go in there.
All the complete detail of the planning board, because they're going to reference the FinCom book.
So the full.
Yes.
Every single thing down to the penny.
Question on that specific, is that as finally written by them, or because one member tonight expressed interest in putting in the red line version of it, so that you could see the implications of getting there? In other words,
Actually, okay, hold on. This conversation probably would be best to serve with Angus and Mike going forward to find out what we've done and maybe, right?
Yeah, it's fine.
Whatever legal and whatever, whatever you want to do.
So there's
More information is better.
Bylaw changes before.
We have done that with bylaw changes, so
as long as there is feedback about what the board wants in there, and I can.
the most information possibly is readable, if you know what I mean. You know what I mean? So maybe the red line thing would be good to see. People could see the changes. Make it as user-friendly as possible. No?
Yep. Sounds
Okay.
good.
Future agenda. Do you have anything, Joe?
I only have one item.
Wow.
We said that after we put town meeting to bed, we would discuss options on how West Newbury would fund our portion of a potential middle high school building project.
Well, it's on our agenda.
For October 15th.
Correct.
Oh, okay, good. Actually,
Right? Angus and I he's already penciled it in.
Fine.
Him and I have already had this conversation.
What's your current, is it 156 is the current number?
151.
151 is the current number? Do we know a projected or approximate West Newbury share, or could we get that?
Yeah, I think in one of the slides, I can get that to you.
Nothing's changed since the presentation that we've had before.
Oh, it's what's
Joe.
in the presentation?
It's the same
I
thing.
thought it went up.
Schematic design.
Okay.
I've seen a bunch of numbers. I think what happened was some of the previous slides, it was as high as 156.
Yeah.
So sometimes that number will get put out there.
But it's 151.
151 was the last, and again, until schematic design is complete, we really won't.
We don't know.
No, we won't know the actual number till February. We get that. Yeah. We just wanted to have a discussion, and if it tweaks up or tweaks down, we'll do that. But how we're gonna, what levers.
At 151, if you could get to Angus, whatever Greg had done, and maybe some backup material, how we got to that figure for us, because there were some questions about that, and we're gonna have it on our agenda on the 15th.
Is
that
the-
fair?
Is the census for the pupil census, is it this year or when do you make that census?
So they're projecting out when the building were to open, what our student population would be at that point.
No, but in terms of the census.
The census
for the
means the payment.
apportionment of the.
Yeah.
Of
it's
the
it's-
cost.
On ours is per pupil. It's
Yeah.
not the two-step method thing.
Right, it's just on per pupil, and I believe that's still a couple of years is what they're looking at, what the attrition is going to be, because one school choice has been phasing out, so we know our student population is dropping. So it is based off of.
No, I don't mean,
Yeah, but- no,
the
but it's
size
gonna
of the
be-
school. I
no,
mean,
no, but
how we
pay our portion.
how the town gets apportioned their.
It's all-
Based on the number of students.
Yeah, but it's.
Right,
yeah,
but
yeah,
when,
it's all,
when is all I'm saying.
When we go to bond it, I would assume.
Oh, not like now or
no.
something. Oh, okay.
No, it's
so that
back
one-
then.
that
It's
one-
something about like the previous year, so if you bonded in spring, it's the previous year, but it has
It's
to
very
be closer.
close.
It has to be
Oh,
closer
okay,
to that.
okay.
That's why that 151 number, and the number that comes is just a guess.
I see,
Based
okay.
on Guessing that's how many students there will be.
Okay, thank you.
One question on that, Justin. Is that number adjusted every year based on school population? So you
So-
have a set number that's the bond amount, but then it gets apportioned differently every year?
That's my
based on-
understanding, it does get adjusted, yes.
Oh, it changes.
It isn't like set time for one.
Each year.
Oh.
It-
Interesting.
So if you got more students from one.
Yeah,
So if all of a sudden you have a
ours
big
could go
building
up.
project- If you had a big building project, your student numbers.
Proportion, yeah, and then our proportion will go up. Interesting.
Or go down.
Yeah. Okay, my thing about putting things on future agenda was to, maybe the first meeting in November, we need to, if we're gonna give a policy or our things about the agenda, we should get our act together, so then we can hand it over to Angus and he can go about his business if we have anything that we wanna talk about. Sure. Because that's part of the whole thing, right? That we're supposed to set out and then give it to the town manager, that was part of the legislation.
Early on, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, you're talking about the budget priorities.
the budget priorities.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, yes.
That all right with you? That was on my thing.
That's fine, yeah, and we,
You have anything?
no, I was gonna say, I forgot how I was gonna phrase the question, forget.
But doing the budget, okay.
Yeah.
Nothing from you, Angus, did you have anything?
For the next one, well, so there's the Mill Pond Management Plan, that's probably not gonna be for the 15th, that'll be a
Okay.
future one. Yeah, River Access Committee at some point is gonna come before you.
Back to us, yep.
We are working to put together this, revive this Regional Finance Advisory Committee. The superintendent's provided some leadership on that, and I know has been in touch with each of the towns, and we'll have a meeting coming up.
What about the, Justin, there was some talk, excuse me, sorry to bother you. There was talk, it was $998, $998. There was talk about you or some things about changing the regional agreement, so we had to get that started. Is that is that something?
Yeah,
And it has to be initiated by the town, so are we doing our part on that, or no?
Yes, that's correct. We were actually gonna have a meeting this week. I've been called into Boston for an MSBA meeting. So, yes, we are.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
The
that's cool.
the finance directors are.
Awesome. So that's cool about that. Anything else?
Couple of minor things. So update on stormwater. We submitted our notice of intent, so I'll brief the board on that. And I'm going to bring forward a proposed minor addition to the town facilities rental policy to allow town staff to.
Yes, excellent. Yeah,
facilities.
let's like,
I'll be out that day.
no, let's town staff rent it. It's like a perk for them. Now you have to be a town member, and the staff can't even rent the
I
room.
didn't understand what you, okay.
just-
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. How's our resource officer doing? You have any idea?
He has been very helpful.
I was just sorry to put you on the spot on that.
That's all right, that's right.
I forgot to ask the chief about it tonight. I was thinking about it.
Officer Clark's been doing a good job. He's out there meeting with the students, which is a huge part of what that program's all about, just getting them comfortable with him there, so if anything comes up, he's a good go-to. Yeah, he's been very active in making sure, like Al is training, that we nail down the curriculum, that it's consistent in all our schools.
Good.
So he's been great at just coordinating with all the chiefs and making sure we're getting out the same message to the faculty and staff, the same training for any emergency response, which has been great.
Awesome, thank you.
You're welcome.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You have a minute?